The Culling Games arc has been in a very interesting place since its conclusion, as it was packed between two arcs that serve as twin peaks for the story. Preceding the Culling Games is the narrative and action Goliath in the Shibuya incident that closed out the first half of this story. After the Culling Games is the fight everyone has been waiting for, Gojo versus Sukuna, and the subsequent raid waged against Sukuna in the Jujutsu Showdown. Whatever may be thought of both of these arcs, they have spawned the most recognizable and iconic moments in the story. For what the Culling Games lack in dramatic story peaks or a fight hyped up since the story's beginning, it serves as an integral connective tissue for Jujutsu Kaisen's story. Moreover, this arc's battle-centric focus can seem like a cover-up for a lack of a story being told, which could not be farther from the truth. This arc maintains the great storytelling established in the Shibuya incident and the insanity of Shinjuku Showdown. Most of all, it exemplifies the most important aspect of this story. The Culling Games is about strength. To get the angle being shot for in this arc requires an understanding of what strength means in the context of every single major battle in this arc. Yuji, Megumi, Yuta, Maki, and Hakari represent different variations of strength. Yuji is emotional, Megumi is tactical, Yuta is mental, Maki is physical, and Hakari is will. The opponents they face are reflections of the strength they need to gain so they could win those battles. Setup aside, Yuji Itadori is the one who set us on this pathway with his fight against Higuruma. Yuji's road to this fight has been a harsh one. Facing the cruel reality of his dream to save anyone he can, he's lost several people who've mattered to him, and several thousand now weigh on his conscience heavily. All that he has left is to shoulder the sins in his decision to become a sorcerer. His face-off against a character who judges his actions from a quote-unquote objective stance is a scenario that throws him to the wolves. Yuji would never deny a system that delivers justice against his actions based on his conscious judgment to make them. His guilt from Sukuna's massacre has eroded his emotional strength as a character. It's not to the point he's no longer stable, but his heart has definitely been stained by despair, and Higuruma is no different. Higuruma is a man who's seen what his desire to do good has gotten him and faces someone suffering exactly like his clients did because of the unfair world they live in. Higuruma fights against a system that punishes the innocent and weak, and at Yuji's core, he's a deeply traumatized kid whose morals cannot survive a world that doesn't care about them and actively works against them. Both have been thrashed by the worlds they decided to enter into, but one has the power to assert their grievances with an effect against the world that hurt them. However, on an emotional level, they've been compromised. Higuruma no longer sees himself fit to be a lawyer, while Yuji no longer sees his life beyond fighting cursed spirits. Effectively, they are two emotionally opposed people. Higuruma is a character that's been hurt by the world and wants to hurt it back, whereas Yuji is a character who's been hurt by the world and won't let it hurt anyone else. This focus of differing perspectives of both characters is put on full display through the battle proper. Yuji's determination in the face of overwhelming odds makes him think more in depth about his opponent's abilities so he can survive longer. Higuruma is in control of the battle's pace, never playing defense, continuously on the offense. As someone without a cursed technique, Yuji represents that weak individual being beaten down by an unfair system. Higuruma becomes that unfair, aggressive system that beats down on the weak because he's dipped too far into the negative emotions which festered in his heart. This confrontation's smaller scope forges a battle made to be intimate and personal. This experience likely helped Yuji get a handle on that guilty emotion eating away at his heart, and Higuruma understands that he needs to pay for his emotional choice that led him to this point. This battle was a walk down a dark road into the light at its end, a stark contrast to Megumi's fight against Reggie. Megumi versus Reggie and his gang is meant to be an unfair fight which is reminiscent of his numerous one-sided encounters throughout the series. Megumi's brain has always kept him from losing his life, and this fight is no different thanks to the applications of his technique. The Ten Shadows technique in his hands is used generally as misdirection or to stuff out the opponent. Max Elephant is used for crowd control, New Way for aerial advantage, Unknown Abyss is for surprise attacks and getaways, Rabbit's Escape is for cover, and Totality is the power Megumi sorely lacks. Usage of each Shikigami at its disposal with their limited application can be quite the hard puzzle to solve, but Reggie forces Megumi to become a true master of each one. Reggie is a very tactical combatant in his own right. His usage of his receipts places his versatility on par if not beyond Megumi's, especially after depleting a decent bit of his cursed energy. An uphill battle like this is what was needed to bring Megumi out of that all or nothing nature of his and into the winner's circle. He's forced to manage 4 opponents at the same time and push himself to his limit, utilizing his shadows, buildings, and said building structures to gain an even tempo and win for himself. The biggest point of this fight is to prove Megumi can prevail in light of the odds, cementing himself as a sorcerer who isn't weak by any stretch of the imagination. The Shibuya incident had him running around at disadvantage constantly and working with another until now, where he uses his technique strengths to its maximum potential. Yet he's still got a long way to travel, unlike his senior, Yuta Okotsu. As a special grade sorcerer, Yuta is not simply represented by his strength or intelligence, but his mental fortitude. Yuta's ability to maintain a calm approach to battle with little chance of shaking his stoic demeanor stands in stark contrast to his earlier days as an emotional fighter. Mental strength has always been very crucial to sorcerers so they can focus on their objective. However, what separates Yuta is his distinct lack of emotion in every encounter he's in. He's never really over the top or expressive in battle, barring his first time entering sorcery. There is an exception in Sendai where he shows a smile, which is a moment of softness, and he acknowledges that fact. Funnily enough, he serves as a straight man to the more over-the-top Ryu, Oro, and Kurodushi found in the colony. All this is not to say that displaying emotion in battle is a sign of mental weakness, but his lack of expression in battle plays into his more controlled or quiet mindset, unlike his friend Kinji Hakari. The strength and force of will is written all over Hakari's character. His curse technique and personality lean into this aspect heavily because his curse technique's win condition is very unlikely to happen from a probability perspective. He practically wills himself to win no matter how bad things may look in battle, and his pride in that very strength makes him a very imposing character. The fever he values quite a bit is a sign of what it means to be free in a sense. Fever, in my understanding of it, is a demonstration of one's believed purpose, dreams, or ideals in an outward fashion, whether that be through speech like Yuji or actions like Kashimo. The strength of will is what pushes all people, and Kashimo is no different. He fights to challenge stronger opponents and enjoys the chaoticness of it. He's a battle junkie and doesn't hide that fact from anyone. Hakari met his match in a character who represented exactly what he did and demonstrated his fever for all to see. Hakari is so engulfed in his fever that losing limbs or taking attacks that probably hurt like hell in general never faze him, which is what his curse technique enables. No matter how often he rolls the dice, he's going to do whatever is necessary to get his desired outcome, in the same way that Maki Zenin was rolling the dice to get her desired outcome despite her weakness. Maki's fight against Naoya serves as her character arc's conclusion and her physical peak being reached. Raw physical strength has been Maki's primary asset for as long as she's been in the story, yet she only ever wanted that strength to fight for the sake of her sister, but gained that strength to do so while losing her sister in the process. This very same desire makes her a complete opposite to Naoya. He's never cared for anyone except himself. The only things he did care about was physical strength and status, which Maki saw as a means to an end. Her victory over a cursed spirit that represents the ghost of her clan is her abandoning where her identity was founded. This is highlighted by her realizing her full potential and becoming what the Zenin clan feared most of all. For even a taste of Maki's power, Naoya gave up his humanity and became what he was already in life, a worm and a dead man. The two were completely different when it came to approaches to strength and had two totally different outcomes. So it was quite the poetic end, really. Combing through all these battles, the strength point is very strong in some, in a stretch in others, I will admit. However, the Culling Games themselves really do sell the point of this theme being its censor rather well. After all, several players from varying generations have come back to life just to fight. Each colony is dominated by strong players who no one will touch with a 10-foot pole because of that very strength they possess. Additionally, this arc is meant to facilitate growth for what is next to come in the Jujutsu Showdown, which is literally a battle between the strongest in the series. Breaking down these fights into their respective parts paints a picture of what the Culling Games is trying to achieve. It's a jumping off point from what was established in the Shibuya incident through Megumi's helplessness in singular combat, Yuji's guilt, and Maki's strength issues. It also builds up the Shinjuku Showdown's main motif of might makes right, and strength being everything to exist in this story so you can exact your will upon the world. I don't think the Culling Games is the best arc, nor do I think it is the worst. It stands alone between two arcs that carry their weight in regards to what fans have been waiting for a long time. The constant fights may block a lot of fans from looking at it from this angle, which I totally understand. Everyone has a different takeaway from every story arc, and what I see may not be what you see, which is perfectly fine because both of our perspectives are equal. Honestly, that's all I have to say when I think about this arc when all is said and done. Thank you all so much for watching. Please stay safe out there and have yourselves a damn good one. I'll see you all next time.